Welcome to Memory Bound. It is the Friday after Thanksgiving, and I'm Janet. I'm here broadcasting from my craft room in Texas. And you'll notice that we don't have Kelly here in the home studio today. We had a couple of technical problems this morning setting up. So I am flying solo. It's kind of like one of those things where they hand you the wheel of the car and tell you to drive. So that's what I'm doing right now on my own. So bear with me if we have any kind of technical problems at all. So let me know in the comments if you can hear me okay, because I really don't know. I'm kind of flying a little bit blind here. So tell me if you can hear me, please. Hear me? I see. Welcome, Chris. Welcome everybody who's just joining us. We have a craft along today from my craft room in Texas, and I'm super excited for this. So in spite of the technical difficulties, we're forging ahead and we're going to see how it goes technically. Can you hear me okay? And so that is wonderful. So I hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I have to tell you, we are so blessed. We spent the Thanksgiving holiday with my daughter and son-in-law and his folks, and they did all of the cooking for us. So I didn't have to do anything except for just show up and drink a little wine, and it was a great day. So I'm very lucky to have the kids so close, or to be so close to the kids. All had a great Thanksgiving too. Let me just check in at the chat, and it looks like everybody is jumping on. So welcome everybody. I'm super excited to have you joining us. I guess now that Thanksgiving is over, we have to switch completely into Christmas mode. So today we're going to be making a few Christmas cards. If you haven't started your Christmas cards, this is a great kind of warm-up thing for you to do. We do have a kit for this craft along that we're doing today. It's called Christmas in the City, and Kelly can put a link up to it in the comments if you haven't purchased it yet. This particular kit makes 8 cards, 6 together here on the stream today, and then you'll have materials and pictures to do 2 additional. You're going to have a ton of extra materials, and you'll be able to make a lot more cards. So I think without further ado, I'm going to put the camera in the overhead mount and we'll get started. So bear with me while I do this. To you. I'm on my own here, so I can't hear Kelly at the home studio. So you guys let me know how things look in the comments, and then I can make any adjustments as we go. So these are the cards that we're going to be making this morning. So I'm so glad that everybody is joining us. And again, if you are slow to get started with Christmas cards like I am, this is kind of a great warm-up. And talk about some housekeeping things before we jump in. Make the assumption that if you're crafting along with me today, you have done the pre-work, and that's listed at the top of your instructions. If you haven't done the pre-work, that's no big deal. Just watch today, enjoy the conversation, and then you can go back later and watch the video after you've done the pre-work and make the cards. So the pre-work is here. It's just cutting apart the text sheets, which I always include in my kits, and then cutting apart the 6x6 paper using the one thing that I forgot to put on here in terms of what is needed. You will need a scoring board for one card. So it's no big deal. If you don't have it, you can improvise. So that's not a big deal, but I forgot to put it on here. And it would be helpful to have a ruler for one card. So again, those are things that you probably have on hand. So that's the pre-work. I'm going to set this aside. And this is the guide. And I'm just going to make sure that, or make the assumption that everybody has done the cutting guide. And what this is a list of the 6x6 papers that are included in your kit, which is one of the, it's a portion of the pad for Christmas in the City. And all of those papers, and most of the cutting is very, very simple. There are a couple of cutting guides included. So if you have all of this done, what I typically like to do is just sort my materials for each card. So what I do is I take the envelopes that are included in the kit and I tuck the card base into the envelope, and then all of the pieces for that card I just put together in the envelope. So I have like a little kit for myself. So that seems to work the best for me. So that's for all of the cards. Materials here for card number 1, which we will start in just a second. But I do want to show you quite a few leftover materials when we're done putting these cards together today. You'll have all of these stickers, cards, and tags with this particular leftover sheet. Here's enamel dots. And then you have all of these leftover papers. So I think you'll be able to make quite a few cards. And if you do make extra cards with your extra materials, let us know. And we would love to see your pictures of your extra cards. But I love extra materials. Now, take a look at the comments here and see if we have any questions before we get started. Yes, I'm glad that you can hear me okay and everything. I love leftovers. So yeah, absolutely save your leftovers and you can make additional cards. So we're going to get started with the first card in the kit. And what I'm going to do is kind of walk us through the instructions. I'm not going to refer to them, but just so that you know, everything that we're going to be doing is listed here in the instructions. You do have it as well. And a couple of step-by-step photos in the instructions that you can refer to too. Card. Before we jump in. 5x7 card. And I thought it would be fun to include a 5x7 card because personally, I don't make a ton of 5x7 cards. Diana is our 5x7 card queen. I think that's all she makes, but I make the smaller size. But I wanted to include a larger card with this particular kit because oftentimes you full sheet times to figure out, okay, how do I use that on a 5x7 card and still see the whole picture? So I came up with a way on this particular card to use both the paper and then also this really cool paper on the back. So what we're going to do is some clever cutting to create this string across the card. So let's get, I like to do side. This is our sample. I'm going to open up my card base if you have in advance, and then I'm going to take my and I tape it here. Place also to use your extra stickers. So some feedback now that my voice is in and out. So I'm not quite sure why that would be. And I have limited technical skills to figure that out. So we're just going to keep going and see how it proceeds. To do along the bottom of the paper. We're going to cut 1¼ inches off the bottom of the paper, and that is to make it a little bit shorter. Create this red strip. Is cut 3/4 inch off the right-hand side. And here's it all. We're going to put this piece of paper here, a piece of paper here, across the entire thing. Now, this causing the problem. Piece of paper here that we need to cut to the length of the card. So we're going to cut this to 5 inches. All the way across the card. Notch in the bottom. Top. Add this piece here, but before adding it, we are going to notch the corners. Use the punch, and I'm going to use the corners with my diagonal corner punch. Foam dots to lift that up right here on the ear pods and see how it goes without my ear pods. So bear with me while I do that real quick. All right, guys, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Let me know if you can hear me. All right, tell me if you can hear me now. Oh, yay. Whew, you guys, I feel like I just landed the plane. Okay. All right, we're going to continue on, and let's hopefully things will be okay. Yay. Okay. So back to where we were. Okay, thank you so much for bearing with me. We have, this is a 2x3 cut apart, and I used my diagonal corner punch on the corners of this. And I got this idea from Katie. So if you have one of these punches, what you should do is number the punches or number the corners and then flip it over and put the same numbers on the back. Because when you, if you're like me, when you turn it over, you can't remember which side you're supposed to be using. So I use number 1 over here at the left because it's the largest. Number 2 is the medium, and number 3 is the smallest, and put those same numbers back there. So now I have used the smallest one on this particular cut apart, and I'm going to grab my foam dots, and I'm going to put some on the back here real quick, just to raise this up a little bit. Hi, Crafty Kathy. Good to see you. And I'm so glad you can hear me now. Gotta love technology, right? We have to figure this little problem out, but I'm sure we'll get it worked out. I'm going to put this about 2/3 of the way down from the top. And the reason I'm going to adjust it down is I want to leave room for this cute little snowflake at the top. Let me get rid of these messy things. So I'm going to grab my sticker sheet and pull off the green snowflake. And we are going to be using our powder tool with the stickers just to remove the sticker part from where we don't want it. So what I'm just going to do is put a foam dot in the middle, and then I'm going to take my powder tool and I'm going to go around the edges where I don't have a foam dot. And then that will keep that sticky from touching the card, and it will keep my sticker nice and elevated where I want it to be. So I'm now going to put this on my red strip. I'm going to let the tip kind of hang down onto the cut apart, and that kind of visually connects these two pieces together. So now at the bottom, I have 3 of the enamel dots, and I chose the dark green ones, and I'm going to pick the medium size for the center. I'm going to put it right here in the middle, and then I'm going to put 2 of the small ones on either side. Now, if you had tweezers, that would be ideal for this. I don't happen to have my tweezers with me right now, but if you're a tweezer person, that would be probably a handy thing to use. And the other thing that I would suggest, I'm not going to do it for our craft along, is if you are making these cards at home, you might want to put a little dot of liquid glue behind your enamel dots. And that just ensures that your enamel dots are going to hold up through the mail. Normally they are, but just to be a little bit on the safe side, I think that's always a good idea. So the other thing that we can do with this card is get out our handy dandy Wink of Stella brush. And if you are new to Wink of Stella, this is an awesome little way to add glitter to your cards. Like Katie, I am not a super glittery person, but this adds just a nice amount of sparkle without being like flaky. So what you want to do when you get your new Wink of Stella pen is you open it up, and there will be a black ring here. You want to unscrew this top, remove the black ring, and that's what allows the barrel with the liquid to be punctured. And then shake it up before you get started, and you can add sparkle all over these ornaments. You can add sparkle to the trees and to the snow coming in the sky. And it's just such a pretty way to add sparkle, and it will not flake off. And the other thing that I love about Wink of Stella is it dries so quickly. So you can kind of put it wherever you'd like. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but just know that you can get as fancy with your Wink of Stella as you want. So with that, we have our first card done. And let me ask you if we have any questions before we move on. And I'm going to grab my second card. All right, let me know if you have any questions in the comments. And let me know if you're crafting along. I would be curious to know if there's anyone out there in our viewer land who is crafting along with me today. And again, if not, the great thing about our videos is you can craft live or later. So if you don't have the kit or are not in a position to craft along this morning, you can always do it later and refer to this video. So let me know if you guys are working along with me. So this is another card that I thought would be fun to include in the kit because it makes great use of the 6x6 paper. And what this is a regular card base that we're going to cut it in half right at the score line, and we're going to sandwich this flap down in between the two panels of the card front, so it gives you a nice lift up piece. So it's super easy. This is something you can do with most any paper, but it works really great with a 6x6 pad. So let's go ahead and pull out our materials. The first thing that we want to do is actually cut the card base in half. So we're going to cut it in half right on the score line. So we have two pieces now. Now the flap part is going to be red side out. And what I like to do when I'm picking out paper to use on a flap is I do like to choose a non-directional paper. This one is a great choice because it has the blue polka dots on the back that's not directional, and this is also not directional. So you don't have to worry about, oh, do I have the paper in the right position? To make it easy, this is 6 inches, and I think this is like 3.5 inches wide. We're going to score it at 1 inch down from the top. So just take your scoring board or your scoring blade and score it at 1 inch from the top. And that is going to create a little hinge. And it allows plenty of length to be left on the front of the card for your flap. You need this to be long enough so that you can conceal your greeting. So if you get too much shorter, your greeting is going to have to get pretty small behind that. So what we've done is we've created a little hinge. We've got these two pieces. So what then I like to do is put a little adhesive on the blue side, and we're going to center this along the top edge, like so. And now the hinge is showing on the back, so we're going to put the back side of that on to cover the hinge. So I'm going to add adhesive to the other panel. And again, this is something you can do with just about any paper that you have on hand. But I like to use it, this particular design, with 6x6 pads. So now we've got our hinge sandwiched in between. You don't see any hinge on the back. You don't see it on the front. It's like magic. So now we have a pre-cut plaid that's going to go on the back, inside back. So we're going to put that on there like so. Kind of nice and centered so that we see wide all the way around. And there you go. Now on the inside, then we can add our greeting, which I've sized this to be about 3x4, so it fits right underneath the flap. So let's go ahead and adhere that so that it doesn't show. And we'll put that right here so that nobody knows it's there until they lift up the flap. There we go. So on the front, we're going to be adding the Christmas time in the city 3x4 cut apart. And I thought it would be fun to, again, use the diagonal corner punch to notch the corners. And golly, let's try the medium size. So I'm going to use like the second biggest corner. And again, with a punch, with most any punch, you always want to turn it over so you can see through the back side. And that helps you know that you've got the corner perfectly situated and not kind of off center like that. You want to make sure it's well seated in that little notch. So we're just going to do that on all four corners. And I love this punch. It really dresses up an ordinary 3x4 cut apart. It makes it just look a little special. So we're going to add this to the bottom of the cut or of the flap piece. Like this. Now, if your flap, like mine, wants to pop up, you can just take a bone folder. Let me grab mine. And run it along the top edge. And if you do that a couple of times, it's going to flatten out and it's going to lay a little bit smoother for you. So on the front of the card then, I thought it would be fun to add another element of the green plaid to kind of tie into this back. And we're just going to tuck it underneath the top edge. And I've used a 1.5 inch punch to make a half circle. So I just put it in my paper and just punched half of a circle with it, just like this. So you're just only getting half of the circle. And now you can add that little plaid element to the top. And I really like how it kind of visually connects the front of the card to the inside of the card. So we're just going to add that. You guys know I love my circle punches and I use them all the time. I'm just going to lift up my 3x4. I'm just going to tuck that little guy underneath like so. And I think that's looking pretty cute. But there's room for a couple more things. We're going to add a snowflake and a Christmas tree. So let me grab my sticker sheet. We are going to choose this cream colored snowflake. And again, I'm going to take my foam dots. And since my foam dots that I have right now are kind of big, what I like to do, this is just a little trick, I do it all the time, while it's still on the backing, I just cut through my foam dots. And sometimes I slice a couple different directions and I just leave them on there. Now I've got a partial foam dot to use for something else. But I've cut a smaller one that's going to better fit the back side of my sticker. Now I'm going to take my sticker sheet or my powder tool, excuse me. And while I still have the backing on, I'm just going to go around this and add powder to that sticker. And now I like to pull off the backing. And let's go ahead and add this snowflake right in the center, which kind of visually connects this piece to this piece. With that, anytime there's an overlap, it kind of visually connects the two pieces together. So that's that. And let's add the Christmas tree. And we're going to do the same kind of thing with the Christmas tree. We're going to put foam dots on the back, but we do need to be careful about where we put the foam dots because part of this is going to overlap the edge or extend beyond the edge. And we want to make sure that we don't see foam dots on the back. My mom used to say it's like making sure that your slip is not showing. I'm dating myself, but she was always like, make sure your slip doesn't show below your skirt. So I'm just going to make sure that I'm putting my foam dots where they're not going to be seen. Put one down here, one down here. I'm going to peel off. I'm going to put my powder tool on the back, and then I'm going to peel off the backing after that. You can peel off the backing ahead of time if you want to. I don't think it makes a nickel's worth of difference. And then we're going to add this little tree to the side. And I think that really kind of helps to anchor it. And it also gives the recipient a place to lift up. So there you go. So let me ask you, does anyone have any questions about the second card that we've made today? Again, this is a card that you can do with most any paper that you have on hand. But I think it's a particularly good use of the 6x6 paper because you have that full length. So let me know how everybody's doing and if you're crafting along, if you are ready to move ahead. I'm going to set my cards aside. And we will move on to card number 3. Okay. Can everybody still hear me okay? Let me know. Now I'm going to pull out the materials I have for card number 3. And we'll take a look at what we're going to do with this card. Many of us at Memory Bound love a good grid design. And that's what this card is. I happen to be a person who absolutely loves using the 2x2 cut-aparts. And so this particular card makes use of 2x2 cut-aparts. And there are lots of ways that you can make cards with 2x2 cut-aparts, but this is one of my favorites. So notice here I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 2x2 blocks on this card. The key to doing this kind of thing is you just need to make sure that you've got enough of a card base to leave a little bit of a wide edge around if you want that. So for my card, I did leave the size at 4 1/4 because if you place 2 2x2s next to each other, that still gives you room to have a nice white border. So what we're going to do is we're not going to cut the width of the card. We're going to leave it as is. But just for fun, this is one of my favorite things to do. We're going to slice the top of the card down at 1 1/4 inches from the top. And what that does is it makes this particular piece, measure 4 1/4 by 4 1/4, which is perfect because we want to use it with 4 2x2 squares. So the math just works out for us to measure down 1 1/4 inches and cut a slice across the top. So let me show you how easy that is to do. If you guys have made my cards before, you know I love to do that. So what you want to do is put your paper in your trimmer, and I slide it all the way over here till I get to the 1 1/4 inch piece or measurement on my trimmer. And I'm going to go all the way to this score line, and then I'm going to stop. So now we've cut a slit. That's all there is to it. So that leaves this bottom piece 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. And that is the perfect size for our 2x2 cut-aparts. So I noticed when I cut this card, or excuse me, when I folded it, it didn't fold quite on the score line. So I'm going to just snip a little bit off just to make sure that it lines up perfectly. Sometimes you have to do that in card making, so that's no big deal. So what we're going to do now, since we have this sort of annoying little flap, is we're going to put some adhesive on it, and we're going to stick it down. And that just keeps it nice and tidy. And we're going to take the green strip that I had you pre-cut, and we're going to cover that strip. So, and what we're going to actually do is save what's left of that green strip for another card, for the next card that we're going to make. So I'm going to put this on here and then just trim off the excess. So I'm just lining it up with the edge like so. I want to preserve all of this extra because I did end up adding it to the next card that we're going to make. So I'm just going to take my scissors, or you could do this on your trimmer, and just cut that extra piece off. And I'm going to set it in a place where I will not lose it, guys. So you might have to remind me where it is. So there it is. And we will need it for the next card. So looking at our sample, here, then what we want to do is round the top 2 corners. So I'm going to grab my corner rounder. And I brought this one along today. I've got this set that has a 1/2 inch corner rounder and a 1 inch corner rounder in the same package. And this is really handy to have because you can make a choice as to which one you want. This one happens to be the bigger one. So maybe I'll just use the smaller one on this card and we'll see the difference. So again, like I said before with the diagonal corner punch, you always want to turn your corner or your punch upside down and make sure your corner is well situated into the back of the punch. And I'm going to do it on the other one. And take a look, guys, and I think you can really maybe see the difference. There is a size difference between those 2 corners. This is the small one. This is the large one. I typically will use the large one, but just so you can see the difference, I thought that would be fun to do. Okay, so now what we want to do is across the top of here, just to kind of finish that edge, we're going to add a piece of our red paper. And this was a skinny strip that I had you pre-cut. And we're just going to run that across the bottom of that green paper. I don't know. I'm kind of like Peggy in that I like to finish off the edges of my papers with little strips. And I think it's just a detail that adds just a nice finishing touch to that top part. So again, I'm going to flip this over, use my scissors to cut off that excess. Let me set all this stuff aside. I don't know about you guys, but I am a messy crafter, that's for sure. And I'm just going to use my bone folder on this to help it lay down a little bit more. And the other thing that I think we go ahead and do is just add our greeting to the inside. And Shelley, I see a question here about the powder tool. How do you keep your powder bottle working? Mine doesn't work very well, and she has trouble getting the powder to come out. I have to say, Shelley, I have not had that problem. I do know that you can unscrew the top and add more powder to it. So maybe just unscrew it and make sure that it's not blocked with powder. I don't know if that could happen, if powder could have gotten wet and caked up on the inside. That would be probably the first thing that I would check for. Just unscrew the top and see if there's any kind of a blockage in there. And I see that Peggy also suggests that you shake the powder tool. That's a great idea. As we've talked about before on our morning videos, if you have a lid that comes with the powder tool, once you get the lid off, just never put it back on again. It's hard to get on for whatever reason. So I just leave the lid off. Now, so for purposes of our work together today, I just put a little bit of repositional adhesive on the inside of my card just to stick that down so it doesn't keep popping up. So let's take a look at what we've got for the front of the card. So we have 3 of the 2x2 cut aparts that are already in your paper pad. And I'm just going to arrange them on the front of my card. I always like to have things arranged first so I can see how the spacing is going to look. And sometimes what will happen is maybe you've cut something just a little off. You might have to rotate a piece. It might fit better one way versus the other. So for this particular card, I had 3 of the pre-made 2x2 cut aparts, and I supplemented it with just an extra 2x2 paper that I had you cut. The reason I wanted to do that is so that I would have kind of a blank one that I could add this snow globe and greeting to. So I wanted to put a blank one in that top corner so that I'd have space set aside for this. So let's go ahead and put these down. This is one reason that I love repositionable adhesive, because if I don't like where I've got something situated, I can easily pick it up and move it around. So what I will do typically is just only lightly press it down when I'm positioning it. just to make sure that I like exactly how it's lining up. Shannon, you were having a card block. That's so funny. I love that. Yeah, we absolutely can go into a funk like that. So I always think it's good to just do a simple card or two, and that kind of gets you going again, gets that old mojo flowing. Trust me, it happens to all of us. So now we've got that block on the front of our card. And I just think that is such a great way to use your 2x2 cut aparts. Now, if you wanted to, you wouldn't have to leave that gap. You could push the pieces together, and that would be totally fine too. Or you can just adjust the size of your card down if you do that. But I think it's easy enough to keep this bottom piece at 4¼ by 4¼ because you know it kind of gives you a template to work in. So now let's just finish up this final quadrant. This is the Noel cut apart, which is included in your pad. And I'm just going to trim off a little bit from the bottom of this piece. I don't know if you can see, but it's not quite centered on the piece. And I want it to be perfectly centered. So I'm just going to trim a tiny titch off the bottom, because that's kind of how I roll. And I think I need to trim just a little bit off either end as well, just to make it a little bit shorter so that it fits more squarely in the space. So I'm putting that down here at the bottom, and that's going to give me a spot for my snow globe to sit. I don't know about you guys, but when I look at a new set of materials, I usually pick out like my favorite sticker, and I have to say this one is it. And I thought, oh golly, I have to use that sticker. So that's the one we're going to use on this card. So what we want to do with the sticker is we want to have it extend above the cut line of the card. So this part here at the top, we're going to put powder on, and we're going to put foam dots just under the bottom part. So if I look here, it's about midway across my snow globe that we're going to put stickers, or excuse me, the foam dots from about the midway point on down. So let me grab my foam dots. I'm just visually thinking, okay, no higher than the midpoint. And I'm going to put some down here at the bottom. And let me grab one of my smaller ones that I cut earlier. And the important thing here is we want to put a good amount of that powder tool at the top. We want that powder to completely eliminate any sticky. We'll put some down here around the other parts too. And I'm just going to test it and make sure before I put this on my card that nothing is going to show. And it looks like we're good. So first I'm going to make sure my Noel is stuck down. And then we'll peel off our sticky. And this is ready to stick on. When you cut the top of card like this, like we've just done on this particular card, this gives you a perfect opportunity to stick something up above that cut edge. And that just gives an additional little design element that you can't do if you haven't cut your card. So this is one of the reasons why I like to cut my card bases, so that you can do things like this. So we have one more thing to add to the top, and that is this red snowflake. And I'm again going to put a foam dot in the center. I'm going to use my powder tool around the edges. Powder tool is getting a workout. I have baby powder in mine, and it smells quite good. And I'm going to put my snowflake in the upper corner, like so. And you know what? I can see the corner of that foam dot is showing, so I don't want that. I just lifted it up. This time I think I'm going to go this way with it. So previously I put the snowflake in this orientation. Here I've got the point going straight up. The other thing that I want to add here, down here, is a enamel dot, and I'm going to add the navy enamel dot, medium size, to the center of the snowflake. And you guys, this card is done. I just think this is a fun design. And if you are a person who struggles with how do I use 2x2 cut aparts, this is a great card for you. And you can make umpteen of these cards. Even if you don't have 2x2 cut aparts, you can substitute regular pattern paper for any of these squares. I'm going to pause here because I do want to show you the bonus card that I included in the kit. Is another way to use 2x2 cut aparts. So on this bonus card, which we're not making together this morning, but you'll get the idea. This one also uses 2x2 cut aparts, but on the top of the card, I didn't cut the card base, and then I just added an additional panel of blue down at the bottom. And so then to those blank squares, I added my popped up stickers. So I think this is another great way to use your 2x2 cut aparts. And guys, there are still extra 2x2 cut aparts beyond this in your papers that you can use, or you can just simply cut the leftover paper into 2x2 squares. So that was just a side note about that bonus card, which will help you make yet another 2x2 card. So there we go. So let me ask if anybody has any questions before we move on to the next card. So that was card number 3. So everybody let me know how you're doing in the comments. And I think, according to my calculations, we are ready for card number 4, which is another favorite card. I like to include, whenever I can, a pocket card, because pocket cards are just a totally different way to mix up your card making. And I always think they're fun to receive in the mail, and they're always a surprise. And a pocket card you can make with any collection at all. And the key is you're going to make use of this 3x4 cut apart to kind of cover up that edge of the pocket. So this pulls out, and you've still got this really pretty pocket. And I'm going to show you how easy this is to do. So again, one of my favorite folds. So let's go ahead and take out our card base, and we want to fold it in half on the score line. What would we do without these pre-made cards? They're just awesome. So just fold it in half on the score line. And I totally made up the measurements here. So you can make this pocket come down as far as you want, but I am going to measure mine so that it comes down that it's 2.5 inches from the bottom right corner. So I'm going to grab my ruler, and I'm going to measure 2.5 inches from the bottom right hand corner. So I'm putting the 2.5 line at the bottom, and I'm going to put a little pencil mark right here. Now I'm going to make a cut on the front of my card from this point all the way up to the top. And the way that you can do that, first of all, you could lay your ruler on here and draw a line and just cut it by hand. That's totally acceptable. Or you can do it the easy way. Put it on your trimmer. And the trick is you want to line up that little dot that you just made with your pencil. You want to put it right on that cutting groove. And then you want to just rotate your card base so that the very top corner is also on that cutting line. So just make sure those 2 points are lined up on the cutting line. And start your trimmer. Just making sure. And go all the way up to the top. So now you've just cut the top corner off your card base. Easy peasy. So I'm going to set that aside and use my burnishing tool just to get a good fold there. The other thing that I like to do is I like to be a good steward of my materials. So I like to try to stretch my materials as far as I can. So the other reason that I made that cut line at the 2.5-inch mark is so that I could utilize a 3x4 piece of paper on the inside, or maybe it's not quite 3x4. It's probably, it is 3 inches deep, but it's 4.25 inches wide. So I don't have to use a full piece of paper on the inside of this card. I'm just going to use a smaller piece of paper, and I've got whatever was left of that paper to use for something else. So that's the other reason why I put that mark where I did, so that I don't have to include a full piece of paper. So let's just go ahead and add that to the top. And guys, I just see that I ran out of adhesive, so I'm going to pop in a refill. Kelly got me started on this Tombow Air, or excuse me, Mono Air, and I love it. It's a repositionable adhesive and it works great. So I'm going to just add this green paper to the top, like so. And once that is done, then we're going to be ready to seal the inside of the card so that we have turned it into a pocket. So I'm going to grab my score tape, and I find that the easiest thing to do is just run my score tape along the outside edge, just like that, and then I just tear it with my nail. And the other place that we need it is along the bottom edge, so we're just going to run it along there, and I just tear it with my nail. And I believe that's the only card that you're going to need score tape on. And this is 1/4 inch score tape. You could also use 1/8. Probably nothing any bigger than that. And once you have those 2 pieces of score tape on, then we're ready to just fold this and seal our pocket. And see, now nobody is the wiser. This paper does not go all the way down in there. Our insert fits in there perfectly, and we're good to go. So let's continue on with this. So the next thing that we want to do is take our green paper that I had you pre-cut, and we're going to add it to the lower front of the card. And that's just going to give us a little bit of color at the bottom. So we're going to do that. I'm just going to put this right on here and line it up. Now that I have the bottom covered and the top covered, we're going to go ahead and round the 2 opposite corners. I like to round the opposite corners. I don't know why. I kind of enjoy that. So I use the larger corner rounder on my sample card. I'm going to use the smaller one on this. And again, I'm going to go with the lower left-hand corner, and I'm turning my punch upside down so I can see through the back of it. I'm going to do the same in the opposite. I always think, I guess doing the opposite corners, I think provides a nice little balance to the card. And I kind of like the asymmetrical look. Now, in your instructions, I forgot to put down this additional piece, but we're just going to add this extra piece. It was kind of a last minute addition. I think I just forgot to put it in the instructions, but this little piece that we used in the previous card, we're going to make use of it right here because it gives us that additional dark color. I'm going to add it right here to the side of the card. And let's see, we'll go down just a little ways. Now I see we have a question from Linda about repositionable tape. This is the Mono Air. This says permanent adhesive, but I call it repositionable because it is a dot adhesive that you can kind of rub away with your finger. If you don't like where something is positioned, you can actually remove it, and I'll just show you. So here is what it creates, a little dot adhesive. I don't know if that is actually showing, but I can remove that just by rubbing it with my finger. and you see it's all gone. So there's no adhesive there. So this is why I call it repositionable. This is one of 2 or 3 adhesives that I use quite a bit. This particular adhesive is a little stickier than some of the other repositionable adhesives, probably because it's not technically repositionable, but I use it like that. So that's a great question. And it looks like Kelly has linked one of our favorite repositionable adhesives. I am all about repositionable adhesive because I am constantly changing my mind, and that's okay. So now that we've got this part of the card done, what we want to do is cover up the right-hand part of the card. And if you were making this card on your own, you could use something that was smaller and let more of the background show. But I wanted to cover up a good portion of this text as well. So I'm going to put this over here to the side, but I want to be mindful that I don't want to put adhesive up on this part, because I want things to be able to pull out of here freely and not get caught. So I'm going to just put my adhesive down here on the bottom. Excuse me. So like this, and I can see I still need a little bit more adhesive here. I'll just tack that down, and now it looks good, and I can still pull this out. Nothing's getting caught. So then we're good to go. So now we want to add the Happy Holidays sticker down here. Like this. And let's do a couple of our enamel dots. I'm going to do 2 large ones. Medium green and a dark green. Now over here to the side, we're going to use this large poinsettia and 2 of the banner stickers. So let me grab the 2 banner stickers. And I used the plaid one and the red striped. And this is kind of influenced by Peggy. I have seen Peggy often put her banners upside down like this, and I think it's just a fun way, instead of with the point down, point up like this. So what I've done is I'm just sticking them together so they're easier to handle. I put the red one behind and the green one on the top. I don't think it matters at all. And I'm just going to stick it in this white space over here to the left. Kind of like that. And now I don't have to worry about that. And now let's grab our poinsettia. And I'm going to put some foam dots on that. Excuse me, you guys, I'm sorry about my cough. We could put it this direction, but it's going to cover over some of the text. So I'm just going to rotate it and put it this way. And what I want to do is add my foam dots behind. You guys, I have to give a shout out to Diane for covering for me last Friday. She jumped in and did her wonderful Christmas embellishment video, because honestly, I was sicker than I've been in many, many years. And whatever this respiratory thing is going around, it was horrible. And I still have a cough. So big shout out to Diane for covering for me. It would not have been a good situation, trust me. So I'm just adding my foam, dimensional foam squares and my powder tool around the back of that. And you can see how perfectly that just fits in that space over there. And again, you can make this card with any collection, any theme. You can make this throughout the year if you've got something large to put over here and a nice floral sticker. Doesn't even have to be floral. I'm just going to overlap the bottom of those banners. And there you go. And I just think that is the cutest way to do a pocket. And now it's just a bit of a surprise for someone. just something a little different. And again, I would take my Wink of Stella, and you want to use your Wink of Stella on the paper. You can put it on the snowflakes. I have found that your Wink of Stella is not going to stick so much to the sticker. It kind of beads up and it doesn't ever actually dry. So you want to just limit your Wink of Stella to like the snowflakes and anything that's paper. So you can just go to town on that. And anybody who has used Wink of Stella, let us know if you like it. I personally have never met anybody who didn't love Wink of Stella once they started using it. So let me know how everybody's doing and if you have any questions at all about this pocket card. And again, I hope that you will try to make a pocket card because they are so, so fun. So I'm going to set these cards aside if we're good to go. I'm trying to keep my work area tidy. This is kind of a challenge for me. Diane would not be proud of how messy my work area usually is, but I'm trying to do a good job with that today. So let's take a look at our next card. This is what I'm calling a themed card. And the reason I included this in the set of cards is because you have car paper, you have car stickers, you have definitely a city kind of car and building theme. And I thought it would be fun to make a card where we use the paper and the sticker to go together. So it's kind of a themed card. What I did with this card is I limited the color palette to just the colors that I saw in the paper. So it's just basically orange, gold and green. And so by just keeping that muted color palette, I think it really helps focus on the car. So oftentimes in these collections, you will have themed paper. Like I believe there's some ornament themed paper. There's some Nutcracker themed paper. What you can do is pick out the Nutcracker paper and the Nutcracker stickers and make a card similar to this. But we're going to focus on the taxi cab right now. So let's pull out our materials and see what we got here. So I have an insert, and then I have some green paper. This is probably my favorite paper in the collection. And the other side of it happens to be the taxi cab paper. So oftentimes, if you turn over the paper, you'll find the perfect coordinating paper to go with it. So these two are going to be the front of our card. And then I pulled out a long piece of lighter green to just kind of give a place for that cut apart to land. And so let's go ahead and put this together. This is a super easy card. We're going to fold it in half on the score line. And I'm just burnishing that fold. And what we want to do is put the green paper all the way over to the right, so it's flush with the edge. And I'm just going to open my card up so I can make sure that I've got that perfectly aligned. And this car paper is cut to fit either right up against it, or you can leave a little gap. In my instructions, I suggested that you cut off that green paper if you want, which is what I did here. But on today's card, I'm just going to leave it full size. If you wanted to slice a little bit off your car paper or your green paper, you can. But you can obviously make the card work either way. So I'm going to put the car paper, in this case, right up against the green paper. Actually, it does end up with a little bit of a gap, and that's cool. You could also take a piece of paper, like cut a little strip of paper and cover that little gap if you wanted it. So gap, no gap, you can do what you want with that. And again, I'm going to now add our inside to the card. So we have that taken care of. So this one, I said, wherever the holidays take you, may your season be filled with joy. So I kind of wanted to give a kind of a car themed insert for this one. And I'm just going to tack this down so that we can work on it together. So for the front of the card, I had you cut this piece of paper, which is a little longer than you might think it needs to be, but I wanted it to extend down and give a place for that car to land at the bottom. So we're going to put this so that it's centered at the top. It hangs down a little bit farther than it might have to, but I think you'll get the drift. And then this little 2x3 cut apart, I thought the shopping and the storefront theme went really nicely with the car. Because I could just imagine somebody taking a taxi to do their Christmas shopping. That I was kind of telling myself that story while I was making this card. So we're going to put this 2x3 cut apart at the top, and I'm just centering it so that I have equal space around the left, the top, and the right. So I think it looks nice that way. So you can see we've got extra space down here, but that's where the car is going to go. So then I took my 1.5-inch circle punch that we talked about earlier, and I just punched a half of a gold circle. And the reason I did that was to just, again, bring in additional gold to tie into the car that I was going to put at the bottom. So what I'm going to do is put a little bit of adhesive behind this. And this is another reason why I love repositionable adhesive. I can just pull this piece up and tuck my circle right behind it. So I just lifted that piece up. If I had a liquid glue, I wouldn't be able to be doing that quite as easily. So that's another reason why I think repositionable adhesive is just the best. So that was able to tuck behind that cut apart, and I just think that looks so cute. So it looks like we need to round our 2 corners, and we want to make sure that we do that before we put that car sticker in place. Otherwise, we're going to have some trouble with that. And again, I used my larger corner rounder on this particular card, which is usually what I do, but I'll use the smaller one here. Again, I'm turning it upside down. Since I have a couple, 3 layers of paper, I'm just going to do the front, and then I'm going to do the back separately just to make sure that that punches all the way through. And I'm doing both sides like so. You could, if you wanted to, you could do these 2 corners, but I thought it might be a little more challenging to punch through those since you would have to be punching through the front and the back of the card at the same time. So here we have the card ready to go, ready for the sticker. Let me grab our car. I don't know, did you guys ever put a Christmas tree on top of your car? I have to say, we never did in our family. We had a pickup truck, so the tree could go in the back of the truck, or sometimes we cut our own. A couple of years we cut a tree off of our own property. But we never had a tree strapped to the front of the top of the car. But I always imagined that I did. I'm not sure I've ever seen one attached to the top of a taxi. So I'm just adding my foam dots to the bottom of the car and to the edges of the car. And I've got room for maybe one more. Kelly had a tree hanging off the top of the car. I love it, Kelly. It's like a memory that I pretend that I have, but I never actually did the thing. It's like a fake memory, but I love it. So then this little car is going to go right across the bottom. I don't know if anybody has ever spent Christmas in New York City, but this collection really spoke to me, and it just made me think of how much fun that would be. I think it might have been last year, maybe the year before, that Diane went to New York City with her girls at Christmas, and she had a wonderful time. So I was kind of thinking how that would be super, super fun to do. So looks like we're doing great on this card. We just need to add in the enamel dots. And when I have a circular thing like this, I like to do a larger enamel dot in the middle and then two smaller ones off to the side. So that's what we're going to do here. I'm going to use the medium gold, and you could do green as well. I think you'd have plenty of green to do that, and that would be a nice contrast. And I'm going to put the two smaller ones to the side like that. And again, if I were doing these in real life, I guess this is not real life, I would probably put a little bit of liquid glue behind those just to make sure that they stick when they're going through the mail. So let's see here. Are there any places that we can put our Wink of Stella? I think for sure some of these elements that are in the front window of the store, they're very tiny. But the great thing about Wink of Stella is that it is a brush tip, and you can go in all those teeny tiny spots. So across the banner, and it's just such a pretty look. And like I said earlier, it's not over the top, it's subtle. There's nothing that's going to flake off. It's just a very, very subtle, pretty, pretty sparkle. And Wink of Stella also comes in several different colors. And you can get gold and green and red and other colors like that as well. But I do find myself reaching for the clear most often because I think it's the most practical, because you can see whatever color is behind it. So I think this card is ready to go. Let me ask if anybody has any questions before we do the last card. Okay, well then we're just going to turn our attention to the last card. And let me grab my envelope for that. And for this card, I thought it would be fun to show how you could use tags on the front of a card. Lots of people ask us, golly, how should I use tags on the front of a card? You know, we make a lot of tags, but what do I do with them? And if you have the the diagonal corner punch, you can make tags to use on the front of your card. And I just thought it would be fun to use the tags as kind of a background for the cityscape included here on this card. So to start, we're just going to fold our card in half on the score line. And we are going to then round the top corner, top left, and the lower right. And again, I'm going to use the smaller of the two since I used the larger at first. This is, again, that sort of asymmetrical look. And I think you can really see the difference in the sizes of the corner. This one is a much smaller corner than that one. I'm going to round the bottom corner like that. And let's go ahead and put our inside in the card. This one says, "May your days be merry and your heart be light." We're going to add this to the inside of the card. And just for ease of working, I'm just going to stick that shut for now. And so the other pieces that I had you prepare for this card are three basically scraps of paper. And they're all the same. I had you cut them to the same width One of them is a little shorter than the others. And I did that just because I wanted to just to show you that it really doesn't matter the length, because the length is going to be hidden behind the cityscape here. The important thing is that they're all the same width, and they probably wouldn't even have to be the same width. They make a really nice background. So in order to turn these strips of paper into tags, we're just going to grab our diagonal corner punch, and let's see, I think I used probably the medium size. So what I'm calling size number, or corner number 2. So I'm just going to put that in my diagonal corner punch, and like all of a sudden now we have turned that ordinary piece of paper into a tag. So I'm going to do that on the top 2 corners of each, and then this one too. So those are going to be the background. And you can play around with how you want these arranged. I kind of arranged them like so, and at a slight angle, maybe with one higher than the other. You could make them perfectly straight. You could kind of flare them out like I did. You can play around with that totally. So let's start with the piece that's over to the left. I'm going to put that on first, and it's maybe about 1 inch down from the top of the card. I think tags make a really nice way to do a background on a card, but I think some of us, myself included, have been maybe intimidated about how to do that and how to make a nice looking card with a tag background. So I'm going to make this green one go up a little bit higher than the other one, so there's a little bit of a height difference. And maybe I've got that angled too much, so I'm just going to kind of straighten that out. And then the little one is going to go in the front. So you've got this 3 tags that kind of form a background. What I did with this is I chose all green. And the reason I did that was so that it was a nice muted background and it didn't compete for attention. I felt like if I used red back here, it might compete for attention with the cityscape. And I just wanted it to kind of fade into the background. So now we've got our nice little background up here. What we want to do now is add our Christmas time in the city to the bottom. And I'm just going to trim a tiny little bit off the bottom, just to get rid of a little bit of that extra space at the bottom. So we're talking about maybe 1/8 of an inch, if that. Maybe more like 1/16 of an inch. And I think the width is fine. So I'm just going to add this to the bottom. So it covers the bottom of those tags. So we don't have to worry about those showing. And that is nice and centered across the bottom. So then I love this particular sticker with the 3, I don't know if they're called brownstones or towns or buildings. I just think they're really, really cute. And that's going to go right across the top of the sticker. But we do want to use our foam dots on the back. So we're going to put foam dots along here. If you had foam tape, that would probably be a more efficient thing to use on this particular sticker because it's nice and square. But I did not get out my foam tape for today. I'm a big fan of these black and white foam dots. Now for the center, I've got probably room in the center to do a few more. So I'm going to cut them like we did before. So I'm leaving them on the backing. And now I can just remove them from the backing. And I've got some of them that are cut in half. So there we go. That's a lot of foam dots. We're going to use our powder tool around the exterior and the interior parts. I wish you could smell this. It smells like baby powder here. So I hope you guys have been enjoying our craft along today. And if you are just getting started with Christmas cards, maybe this is a good kind of warm-up activity for you to kind of get you in the frame of mind to start making a few. If not, just watch and enjoy. And all of these are ideas that you could use not just for Christmas. You could use these for any time of year. So I'm just going to put this sticker right across the top of that Christmas in the City. So it just sits there and the whole piece is kind of continuous from top to bottom. So then the only thing left for us to do is to add accents to the top. And what I was doing here is looking for a way that I could do something other than ribbon. I love using ribbon on tags, but for purposes of this kit, we did not include ribbon, and I wanted to show you some alternatives. If you don't want the bulk of ribbon on a card, you can always look for your stickers and substitute a sticker for where you would have ribbon. So this is one of the poinsettia stickers. We're going to put a foam dot on the back of this guy and a little bit of our powder. And that takes care of the one at the left without the bulk of ribbon. Now across the little one here, we're going to do this Noel sticker. And again, that gives us a nice pop of red without overwhelming the background. And then here on your sticker sheet, there are several round snowflakes. I chose the red round snowflake, and we're going to put him at the top where you would normally have like a punched hole and ribbon. That is going to be our substitute. So now then we just need to add our 3 enamel dots, which are somewhere on the table here. And on this card, I chose 3 different colors of enamel dots because just to remind everybody that you don't have to only use the same color of enamel dots. So this is a red large one. You can mix and match. When you're using a coordinated enamel dot set, you can mix it up. So this is a large red, a medium green, and then a small of the dark green. And I'm just using them in the upper space to kind of fill in that space. And I do believe that card is done. So we have finished our 6 cards. I want to walk you through real quick the 2 bonus cards that are included in your kit, just so that you see what else you can make. So let me ask if anybody has any questions while I'm grabbing those 2 bonus cards. Included in your kit are the 2 bonus cards. We've already spoken about this one, which is the one that uses the 2x2 squares. You also have inserts for those 2 bonus cards that you can use in one and the other. And here you can see I used one of the nutcrackers on the inside of the card. So this one, again, uses the 2x2 squares. This one, you're just going to take your leftover strips of paper and you're just going to add them diagonally across the card and then just cut off the edges. So here I used some of that green star paper. You can cut it to whatever width you want, and then some of the solid at the top. Once I laid that across there and stuck it down, I just flipped the card over and trimmed off the excess. So that left a nice border at the top. And then I just added a cut apart at the bottom and the large Christmas tree. And just to add a little bit of extra trim, I cut a skinny piece of my leftover plaid and put it along that solid paper. So this is an idea that you can replicate. You can do this over and over again with your leftover 2x3s and your leftover stickers. So you could even do it this direction. You could make your stripes go all the way across the card. I just thought it would be fun to limit the stripes to the top and then put your stickers and your cut apart down at the bottom. So those are 2 bonus cards that you can do that are the pictures are included in your kit. And here are all the cards that we have made today. So I think this has been so much fun. And I want to just say thank you so much for joining me today for this craft along, a solo craft along. I appreciate everybody's patience with me as we work through our technical problem at the beginning, but I think everything worked out great. As a reminder, we still have the kit available. And if you would like to pick it up and make the cards later with me on the video, I think that would be a great thing to do, especially now that December is right around the corner and it will soon be time to put our cards in the mail. So with that, I think I'm going to sign off for the day. I hope everybody has a wonderful crafty weekend. And a reminder to check out our great Thanksgiving specials, which have been going on all week. There is a tab or a button at the top of our website that highlights our Thanksgiving specials. So you'll be able to go and check those out and get in on the great deals that Kelly has put out there for us. Again, I want to say thank you. I hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday, and I hope you have a great and crafty weekend ahead. So I'm going to sign off now, and we will see you on Monday. Thanks, everyone.